Good morning. It's May 11th, 2020, and it's a Monday. Here in LA, kind of cloudy, some fog this morning, 64 degrees Fahrenheit, around 17 Celsius. This all should burn off pretty soon, and we'll have sunshine and 70 degrees. Have a great day.
Welcome to Phantom Astronaut. I'm Decker. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about David Lynch, who just passed away recently. So, over the past couple of days, I've been thinking about his work. I've been thinking about him. I've been thinking about what his legacy means. And I want to start off by telling you about this encounter that I had with him probably about 10, 11 years ago, where I was in Beverly Hills. If you know Beverly Hills at all, if you know Los Angeles, there's a road called Robertson. It goes straight up through Beverly Hills. There's a red light right at, I think, Santa Monica Boulevard, where there's that famous Beverly Hills sign. Looks like it's on a little pole. Very, very famous. Looks like a crest. I'm at that red light, and I just bought an EV. I bought a electric car. It was a Nissan Leaf. At the time, it was my first one. I've had three electric cars now. And this other car pulls up beside me. And out of the corner of my eye, I just know. I'm like, oh, that's David Lynch. If you're in LA, you know what David Lynch looks like. If you're not in LA, you probably know what he looks like too. But he used to do these like morning weather reports and everything. He was really woven into the fabric of Los Angeles. You could see him if you went out to Bob's Big Boy and stuff. He would be hanging out at the diner. And I was just like, oh, it looks like David Lynch. See him out the corner of my eye. And what I do is I kind of go, okay, well, I'm not going to look over at him because I don't want to be weird. But I get this nagging, needling feeling. Like, when somebody's trying to get your attention and you just feel it psychically. And I go, okay. So I turn and I say, oh, he is looking at me. He's making this gesture, like roll down the window. So I do. And I say, what's up? And he looks at me and he goes, is that car electric? And I said, yeah, it's an EV, man, all electric. He looks at me, he goes, ride the lightning. And he cackles and he laughs and laughs and laughs. And he doesn't stop laughing. His head's going back. And it was just like, he was just in love with the idea of electricity. And from what I understand, around that time period, he was making Twin Peaks: The Return, and that has a lot to do with electricity and shamanism and, so many different themes of the surreal. And he drove off. I drove off in the other direction. And man, that was just such a great interaction that I had with him. I've seen him other places, but I've never interacted with him in any other context. I saw him do a show of his electronic music. Just such an inspiration to me. So, what does this mean in terms of his legacy? What does this mean in terms of the context that we should view his work? Well, he brought so much of the avant-garde filmmaking that people like Dali and Buñuel were experimenting with in the early days of cinema into this modern context. Because remember, he is a fine artist, and he used to make these great short films that were meant to be seen in a gallery fine art context. And he took that sensibility, that strangeness, and he merged it with more mainstream kind of storytelling. And I think he started to come into his own as an artist probably around the time of The Elephant Man, when he was working with Hopkins and Bowie and all those guys putting that picture together, because he realized something about modern mythology and the symbols that we use. And he realized how we can start to try to realign ourselves by rethinking how we connect to media. Now, I just said a mouthful there, so let's go back and unpack a few elements of this. If you look at his films like Blue Velvet, for example, he's going through these, kind of cinematic tropes and expanding them in a direction that you don't normally think that they would go. He's saying, like, this is Americana, and this is, on the other side, this dark reflection of that Americana. And he carried this over to television with Twin Peaks, where if you watch the pilot for Twin Peaks, you'll see all of the elements of a police procedural, a 1-hour dramatic soap opera that was very popular in the 80s going into the 90s. And then slowly he lets that artifice fade away, and he takes you on this journey into an exploration of the subconscious, the dream world, the inner space. That, I think, is his magic, is that he extends this very welcoming invitation to go along with him. And that invitation is written in a language that you understand, but by the end of it, you are completely dissolved into the universe of the imagination. It is no longer familiar. You've gone somewhere completely separate. Now, if you think that those are not necessarily the themes that he's going for, I would challenge you to say, let's look at his sitcom. He did this really hyper stylized sitcom where he takes, again, the tropes of the 3-camera sitcom, which was very popular in the United States and abroad at the time, and he just blows it out into a stylized, surrealist, kind of, again, funhouse mirror of a sitcom, because he wants you to be challenged by the media that you consume. And I don't mean that in a way of like, oh, he's trying to elevate this or he thinks this is beneath him, but he's saying, no, look, this is how we as society consume stories. This is a sitcom. This is a 1-hour drama. This is that. These are the ways that most people access their creative storytelling universe. Well, I'm going to invite you in that same language. I'm going to bring you with me, and then I'm going to unravel that slowly so that you can no longer, by the end of it, recognize how you got to this point. And in a way, it's a little bit of sleight of hand. It's a little bit of trickery. It's almost like a magic kind of illusionist way of presenting media. Some people might say it's disingenuous. Some people might, in other contexts, call it clickbait. They might say, oh, you're bringing people in here by advertising one thing and then kind of baiting and switching with another thing. Well, that's the genius of Lynch, is that it never quite feels like a bait and switch. It's where he's sort of boiling the frog, right? You know, that metaphor of, where, a frog will jump out of a hot pot, but if you put him into a lukewarm or cold pot and then you slowly raise the temperature, then the frog will boil and die. Well, that's kind of what he does to all of our brains when you watch a David Lynch project. And the way that I think that I'm right about this, because again, I don't have any specific special insight into him, is through his friendships with people like Donovan. If you know the psychedelic rock artist Donovan, David Lynch a few years ago made a music video with him for a piece. I think it was called I Am the Shaman or Shaman. Again, they're deeply interested in the idea of connecting their inner space, removing the artifice of what we navigate as the shared systems and games of the world that we live in, and going beyond it to see into a more true or objective reality. So he wants to try to remove the barriers from the subjective and the objective. And you can go and look at the work that he's done with the Lynch Foundation, trying to bring transcendental meditation all the way into public schools and places where people can access information about what transcendental meditation can do for you, both mentally and physically. It's a very, very healthy practice. It's something that can do a lot to heal society. When we sit back and we think about our place within the universe and we take time to just be quiet. And it's this great hopeful message that I think David Lynch really brings us along for the ride with. His old weather reports here in Los Angeles were always hopeful. It was always going to be a wonderful day when you got the weather report from David Lynch, because at the end of everything, he wants us to be better than we are. He wants us to look beyond the games of society. When I say games, I really do mean games in the academic sense, like game theory. Game theory is a way of looking at sociological and social science problems in terms of interactions and responses and how we as human beings, both individually and as groups, process that information. I think he saw society as game, the way that many academics do. And he said, hey, What if you started playing a game and halfway through you realized that the rules of that game no longer make any sense for how to finish the game? And that really, to me, became the defining characteristic of his work. Deconstructing not just how we navigate his own story structures, but challenging us to do that in every aspect of our everyday lives, whether that is economic, whether that is how we engage with each other on an interpersonal level, whether that's romantic, whatever it is, he's challenging us to say, why do we have these rules? And we have the power within ourselves to rewrite these rules. And he's trying to reinforce that message over and over and over again with all the different kinds of work that he did with music, with painting, with film. Again, as somebody who is a recording artist, as someone who is a visual artist, as someone who is a filmmaker, I really just gravitate toward that idea of taking a central theme, one overarching idea, and reinforcing it through art. And that's what I strive to do. That's what I think he was incredibly successful at. And I think that's what inspires me to continue to be interested in him. So, January 20th, that's Monday, 12 p.m. Pacific time, the Lynch Foundation, spearheaded by now his children, has asked everyone worldwide to take a 10-minute meditation break, practice, observation, whatever it may be, a moment of quiet, not necessarily to observe him and his legacy, but to engage in actual transcendental meditation where you clear your mind and you allow yourself the space to breathe and to think and to be open to the possibilities of consciousness and how you engage with other consciousnesses. So I'm going to be observing that. Again, that is Monday, January 20th, 12 p.m. Pacific time, 10 minutes. I'm going to be doing it. I'd love to hear about your experiences if you do it. And as always, I'm Decker, the Phantom Astronaut. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comments are great. They're one of the primary ways that the algorithm helps to push my content out further is when I get comments. In addition to that, if you want to support the channel further, there's links in the description for this, as well as the overall channel description. Thank you so much for watching. Rest in peace, David. Had such a great interaction with you, and your work continues to inspire. And I will see you out there.